Hello, everyone. Happy to be here in this breakout session to talk about root cause analysis. Let me introduce myself again. I think you probably watched my first video in the main meeting. So my name is Jeff Moo. I'm a senior EHS manager in NACF, North America Customer Fulfillment Centers. I've been with Amazon for 4 years. I've been doing safety for 25 years. Um, One of the primary role I have in the NACF WHS team is to drive the excellence program, including the quality of incident investigation. So today we're going to spend some time talking about how to do a good job on root cause analysis. Um, and then going to do a case study. We are going to drive some discussions. Okay. Remy, would you flip the slide, please? All right. So root cause analysis is really a process, a problem-solving process, establishing a quality investigation to identify the cause of the incident. A lot of times we come in when after incident happen, we as leadership we respond to the incident, and then we see what we see. We see what we see. We all come in with bias, right? So we have our strength. Every one of us, we have our strength. We have our weakness. So we all come in and we see what we see. A lot of times, we come in after we saw the instant scene, we already think that we already thought that we knew what happened, right? Is it really true that we knew what happened after we took a look at the instant report or photo or the instant scene? You went there and took a look at that, and we already knew what happened. Not likely, not likely, especially for uh, more complicated cases, right? There's one thing that all of us definitely will see, that is the unsafe behavior. Someone did something wrong that triggered the incident. You are going to see that. That's a factor that is so obvious that that's the moment that right before the incident happened, someone did something, the incident, and caused the incident. We all see that, right? So that is actually a pretty common pitfall for people that start to drag off their attention and try to find out why the person did that. Okay. To get an answer from that single thread drilling, is that going to prevent the problem or fix problem? Not likely. A lot of times there are a lot of other contributing factors that are easier to be controlled or actually enabled this incident, allows this incident to happen, right? So instead of fix the person who caused the problem, how about fix the problem itself? So we do not have to deal with that problem again. So that's the whole idea of the root cause analysis. Okay, so as we said on this slide, we investigating a worksite incident provides employers and workers the opportunity to identify the hazards in their operations. I mean, it could happen to this person. It could very much happen to another person. It's just a matter of time, right? We have the Murphy's law. If it happens, it will happen, and it's just a matter of time. The second thing is the shortcoming of their safety and health programs. In the previous presentation, I actually had a Swiss cheese model. I hope you to understand that it's actually a multi-layer uh, issue that we're dealing with. You are going to have unsafe condition. You are going to have unsafe behavior. You're going to have unsafe supervision. You're going to have un, uh, you're going to have organizational influences. Okay, such as programs driving speed, not quality, or safety, right? So that would work against safety. Um, Instant investigations focus on identifying and correcting root causes, not on finding faults or blame. In Amazon, we have a saying, we call it APAP. That means attack process engage people. Attack process engage people. That's the way to go. It's so easy to find someone did something wrong. As human being, we all make mistake. In my training, I always ask people, how many of us never driven above posted speed limit? right? Having incident or not, or getting a ticket or not, is a different discussion. But have we all done that? Knowingly done that? I think we have, right? So human being, we all make mistake, or sometimes we take shortcuts. That happen to all of us. If we only if we only investigate the incident to nail the person, saying that, well, if there's something wrong, then we're really not fixing the problem. We're not preventing the problem. Not likely. You fix a person, the problem is still there. The problem is still there. So most importantly, enables employers and workers to identify and implement the corrective actions necessary to prevent the future incidents. Okay, so that's the whole idea of root cause analysis. And again, as I said earlier in the previous presentation, sometimes you need a cross-functional team because we all come in with our bias. We all have our strength and we all have our weakness. You know, for a person that does not have management system experience or engineering experience, then it will be hard for the person to find out how people to identify the weakness in the management system about how people work. For people that do not have engineering background, they may not be able to find out how the tools work or how the machine work with people. What happened in that human-machine interaction that allowed this incident to happen, right? So sometimes you need to actually get a cross-functional team to have enough knowledge to understand the problem. Okay. All right. Can you go to the next slide, please? Yes. So I want to spend a little more time talking about the 5 why. 5 why is such a common tool that we use to resolve a problem, right? So it's as simple as, if you had any previous experience using 5 why, probably you learned that from your coworkers or from your manager, from other, or from a website, or if you Google 5 why, you get a whole bunch of information. It does have its advantage and also its weakness in this model. Okay, but it is actually the mostly used tool, and probably the simplest tool for root cause analysis or for problem solving. So it's as simple as you start with the problem statement. Why did this happen? And then the person will give you an answer. You convert that into another why. Then they give you another answer. Then you convert the answer into another why. You do that 5 times, and most likely you would be able to get to the root cause. That's what I said about 5 why. So let's talk about the limitations about this method. First of all, where to start? A lot of times, even in Amazon, we have seen cases got reported starting 5 why, saying that why the person came to MCare, which is our on-site clinic, the medical services, on-site medical services. Why the person come to MCare? Answer is they have pain in their shoulder. Then the second question is why they have pain in the shoulder. The answer is they pull their shoulder when they're lifting a box. So you can see actually out of the 5 whys, the person already lost 2 opportunities out of 5. The right way to do that is you start the first why, with the event, the incident event itself. And also there is no such rule saying that you must stop at the number 5. Why? Right? So I think the rule of thumb is that when you start drilling into this, digging into this, you can keep asking why until you get to an answer that is at the management system level, indicating that there is a weakness in their management system. That's when you stop. Okay. The other significant disadvantage of the 5 why is most of the people did not know how to do 5 why, multi-dimensional 5 why deep dive. Most of them only do single thread drilling. Excuse me. Single thread drilling. The problem is that, as I said, every time when we start to look at an incident or instant scene or instant picture or instant description, the most eye-catching element is unsafe behavior. Okay, if you start to only chase unsafe behavior a few times, most likely you are going to find it's someone's fault. If we're not nice enough, we're going to say, well, it's their fault. They knew about this. We had training for them. We had training record here. They did it anyway, right? So that's their fault. We're going to punish them. Or we're nice enough. We're saying that, okay, well, they received training, but they may not know, well about, there's a knowledge gap in there. So we fix them by sending them back to the training program. If you only do single thread drilling on unsafe behavior, most likely it's going to be someone's fault, or you're going to fix training. Usually that is not. I mean, when you look at this from a multiple dimensional angle or view, you will see actually it's not quite so. In this example, I shared with you that actually you can break down more questions into one from the second why here. You can see you start to kind of branch out into 3 questions, and then you can expand that further. And each of the question you'll get an answer, and you can actually build a multi-dimensional model like this. In that way, you are going to have a much better chance to find the root cause. Okay. So the 5 why method here, again, it doesn't really require a special knowledge or special training. I mean, the whole comprehensive root cause analysis training itself is 8-hour training in Amazon, in NACF, right? So we're only sharing a very simple, the most basic tool with you on this method. The other thing I do want to point out is in my training, I've been telling people, I encourage them to ask how, not to ask why. Not saying that they cannot ask why, but I encourage them to ask how. So what are the differences? What are the differences between how and why? Think about that for a second, and then I will share the answer with you. They're literally asking for the same thing, right? So, but the thing is that asking how is more it's actually inviting information, it's engaging people. And let me explain why. In my training, if it's conducted in a classroom, I'll drag a chair and set up in front of the person I'm interviewing. If I was doing the instant investigation, put it in front of the person, look into their eyes and ask them, why did this happen? Okay, instead of I drag a chair set up in a way that it's almost shoulder to shoulder, but it's like a 90-degree angle like this. This is the person I'm sitting here. When I turn my head a little bit, I can talk to the person, but we both look at the whiteboard, or at the instant scene, we both look at the problem. And I ask them, could you help me to understand how did this happen? I hope you feel the difference in there. You look into their eyes and ask, why did this happen? They throw an answer to you. You immediately turn that into the other why, and then another why, and the other why. After 2 or 3 times, people will be like, whoa, what are you trying to do? Are you like chasing my fault or something, right? Instead, I set up in a way almost shoulder to shoulder. They become part of the solution. I ask them to help me to understand, how did this happen? It is quite powerful. I've been telling people in my training that if for process engineers, there's nothing wrong if they want to ask why all day long. Totally okay. When it comes to safety, there is a people element in there. Okay, there's a people element in there. Someone did something wrong. So if we always ask why, it's kind of a little bit cold. It's asking for the same thing, why and how. When you look at that, eventually it's asking for the same thing, but the approach is more. It's more effective if you ask how instead of why. Okay, so that was actually a key learning point in my training program. That's a trick, that would actually help you to get more information to understand the situation better. If you ask how. So in our program, we actually call this 5 how/why. And we're not going to change this model's name, saying that, okay, it's 5 how now, it's not 5 why, because outside of Amazon, probably everyone is still calling that 5 why. So it is 5 why, but try to use the how instead of why in your investigation. All right, Remy, would you go to the next slide, please? Okay, now after you have a better understanding of the root causes, now we can talk about corrective actions. Okay, I have been telling people all the time that without understanding their true root cause, there's no real there will be corrective action, but there will be no real preventive action, right? Corrective action versus a preventive action. Those are two different concepts. Sometimes we call that kappa. We combine them together, corrective or preventive actions, right? But they are literally two different things. Corrective action is to fix the problem, and preventive actions are to prevent them from happening. So without knowing what's causing that, you would not be able to have effective preventive actions. You can fix the problem, but you're not going to prevent that from happening. Okay, but I mean, overall, we call this corrective actions. It's the same thing: corrective action of kappa, corrective actions and preventive actions. So they are to eliminate the cause of detected non-conformity or other undesired situation. The investigation is not complete and the corrective actions are implemented and address the root causes of the incident. Okay. Um, Implementation program level improvements with the corrective actions would be to reduce the risk of future incidents, but also improve the company's safety and morale. Supervision conclusions are highly unlikely to improve the safety culture or prevent future incidents. I think I have explained that enough. That we need to fix the problem instead of fix the person who caused the problem. If we only fix the person, next time you'll have another person sitting in that seat waiting for you to fix, and the problem is still out there. Okay, so again, corrective action and preventive action are based on the conclusion of a good root cause analysis. Without knowing the why, you are not going to be able to prevent that from happening. Okay. Remy, would you go to the next slide, please? All right, let's talk a little bit about this hierarchy of controls. There are different layers of corrective or preventive actions. Excuse me, I just have a little bit allergy today. so, um, so when you look at this five layers of hierarchy of controls, when we consider corrective action, preventive action, you can actually put them into all these five different buckets. It's an upside down pyramid. It's out there. It's kind of like a fundamental safety knowledge, right? So the most effective will be elimination. What is elimination? Elimination is to eliminate the hazard altogether, so you don't have to worry about it, right? If you have machine and human interaction incident, the elimination at that level must be either eliminate the machine altogether, or you eliminate, I mean, not eliminate people, but you actually have a way to control people so well that there's no person in there. Like you have a full robotic operation, then cool. It's elimination, right? Substitution. Usually that happens when you have actions. When you have actions comparing, when you change the way people work, so you actually overall reduce the risk. For example, if you have use instead of use forklifts, you actually use the pallet jack, right? And of course, I mean, pallet jack cannot handle super heavy the subject products, right? So that's a different discussion. But substitution, or sometimes you used to have a chemical for a certain process, and now you actually substitute with a lower toxic chemical. In that way, it's called substitution. The overall exposure is reduced in that way. You change the way people work. Engineering control. I call this how to define engineering control. Do you call if you have a stop sign in the parking lot, is that engineering control or administrative control? Right? I think most people will answer this is administrative control because it's a sign, right? It's a warning sign only, right? It's administrative control. But what about engineering control? If you have a stop sign, a fancy stop sign, I have seen that, right? It has a flashlight installed on that stop sign. When your car gets close, it flashes. Do you consider that an engineering control or administrative control? I would say steer and administrative control. Okay, what is engineering control? Engineering control is the physical barrier or technical barrier that separate people from hazard. There will be engineer control. Otherwise, no matter how fancy the solution is on the sign, it's still an administrative control. Okay, so let me repeat that. Engineering controls are the physical or technical barrier that separate people from hazard. The most common type of engineering control would be like machine guarding, light curtain. Those engineering controls. You have a speed limiter on the forklift. That's engineering control. Administrative control. So training, training, or the warning signs, the procedures, work instructions. Those are administrative controls. Why? Because those are rules. Anything related to a rule that expect people to follow, those are administrative controls. Last one, last layer is PPE. So PPE is the last defense between you and the hazard. One instant happen, if you have PPE, the right PPE on you, it has a chance to reduce the severity of the injury, but it does not prevent the injury from happening. Okay, so when you look at this upside down pyramid, I want to ask the team this question, and you think about that for a second. What is driving? And we know that the PPE is least effective and the elimination is the most effective. But what's driving the effectiveness? What's connecting that effect? What's determining the effectiveness out of these all these categories? Think about that for a second, and now I'll share the answer. Okay. So what's the the element that is driving the effectiveness? I call this human participation. Okay, the more you require human participate, human make mistake. That's, as I said, every one of us we make mistake, right? The more you require a human to participate in that solution, the least effective it will be. So, for example, that elimination, it requires zero human participation. The hazard is gone altogether. There is no exposure. Then there's no need to train anyone. There's no need to give them any PPE. There's no need to think about engineering controls. It's gone, right? So zero participation. Where you go down the layers to the PPE, it requires a lot of human participation. You need to train them. You need to make sure they understand your training. You need to make sure they have the right type of PPE. You need to make sure that they have the right size of the PPE. You need to make sure the PPE are working properly, proper the maintenance of PPE, maintaining PPE cleanness and all those. If you miss one of those elements, then the PPE solution would fail. And think about how many points you have to fail that solution. Instead of elimination, there is zero chance for people to make mistake because the hazard is gone altogether. So remember this, the human participation is the element driving the effectiveness. Okay. Remy, would you go to the next slide, please? All right. So let's do a case study here. The corrective actions case study. So the electrical contractor experienced an arc flash event while working on electrical panel. The electrician did not properly lock out and energize the panel they were working on. When they began work, two wires connected to each other and produced a large flash. The electrician was not injured during the event. During the investigation, it was determined that the electrician mistakenly locked out the panel CP1 instead of panel CP01 and did not properly verify the panel was de-energized before beginning work. So no doubt it's a life-threatening situation. It's an electrical exposure, right? And I need a team to participate here. What do you think from what you're seeing here? First of all, who would you invite to join you in the incident investigation? And second thing, what do you see? What other elements that failed in this case? I think for participants, you can chime in, right? You can type your answers or questions, right? I don't know if I can see them, but the team, the participants can chime in, right?
The participants are able to put their questions or answers in the chat on Twitch.
Okay.
I don't see any questions right now,
Okay.
but if they come up, I will read them aloud.
I gotcha. Okay. Yeah, we'll give their give their the group a minute and think about it. Who you would invite into the instant investigation, and what elements you already see that failed without asking more questions, from the person who did the work and all those. Okay, Remy, do you see anything in the Twitch chat room?
Nope, no questions yet.
All right. Okay, should we proceed to the next one? Well, I would say yes. In this case, all right, okay. In this case, you can see that if I was the one doing the instant investigation, I definitely need to check a few things, right? So first of all, who you would who you would invite to join the investigation with you. I think clearly you need to have the maintenance manager or someone with electrical background. I have some knowledge about NPS MTE, but if I was handling this situation, I definitely want someone that more competent than me, that can work with me on the electrical related investigation. I also probably need help from HR and the training team to actually to find out the training records and all those. Of course, I mean this is a contractor event. If you were the investigator, you want to find out if the person's training is up to date, and all those, right? And then there are some elements. I don't know if you noticed that actually CP1 and CP01 is actually a very confusing situation. It's a very confusing situation, and that is totally their element in their in their contributed to this situation. For people that are familiar with the logout tagout process, there are certain steps you need to notify. Um, you need to notify affected associates, and also after you exercise the logout tagger, you are expected, and absolutely the most important step is to validate the zero energy status, and the person failed to do that, right? Because it does happen from time to time that people lock out the wrong place, and they're still exposed in their in that activity, and they didn't know about it, right? So the failure. It's obvious. And then why was that? Was that a one-off situation? Was that a common situation? Was the person in a hurry and all those? Of course, we need to go deep into that to find out. Otherwise, just looking at this, you will say, well, that's so clear that the person, it's an electrician. They should have had their license and training and all those. There's no reason I didn't know about this. Okay. And they missed the last step. Then that's a life-threatening situation. We'll fire him or fire them. Is that a good, quick solution? It may not be, right? So it depends on what you find out from your deep dive. Maybe the training program is not up to date. The person not receiving a refresher training, or there's a lack of supervision, or there's a lack of risk assessment for this task, or maybe they reference the wrong procedure and all those, right? By the end, they failed to validate the zero energy status, right? Fire the person may not fix the problem. totally can have another person have repeating this situation next time. So we need to find out what's wrong. We attack process, engage people. Okay. All right. That's if there's no questions, that do you see any questions, Remy, in that Twitch?
No, there's no questions.
All right. Yeah. Let's move to the next slide. I think that. Let's move to the next slide. I think that's it, right? Yes. All right.
Yes.
So I'll open the floor for questions. Any questions about the root cause analysis? I know it's impossible to cover the whole 8-hour training in this like 20-minute presentation, but any questions about the root cause analysis? Just drop that into the Twitch and we can answer. Sure. There is a ask. Can you please mention why it's so important for them to engage in an investigation after an incident? Absolutely. So just like how we handle incidents in Amazon, the more difficult. It's so important for you to find out what's going on, and I think all other leaders that presented, most of other leaders presented in this summit already stressed that many times that the contractors actually perform high risk operations a lot. You guys actually running a team at a customer site actually remotely. That's making this whole thing even more difficult because you may be working in an environment your team is not familiar with, right? And your risk is so high that you do not really have it's not in an environment you're not familiar with, and you may not have like enough supervisor managers on site on every project, right? All those elements actually make this contractor high risk work very the risks are very high for the contractor work. It is very important to find out what's going on so you can improve the weakness in your management system. Amazon will be asking after the incident. Amazon will be asking like why, show us like what went wrong. If the answer is that, well, the person did not follow the safety rule and we fired them, no, that's not the answer we're looking for, right? That's not the answer we're looking for. It's not about firing a person because as I said, there are multiple elements, failures in management system that allowed that unsafe behavior to trigger the incident. If we do not fix those hidden hazards, if we do not fix those holes in their management systems, we are going to have the same problem. And that makes me nervous because contractors, again, perform high risk work. Thinking about, okay, well, high work this time, the person almost failed, but he did not fail. Then, okay, well, fire the person, we'll get another person. If that happened next time, it may be someone's life, right? So that's why it's absolutely important for the team to own it. It's your team. It's your management system. It's your process. It's your business and your team. Everyone have a family behind them. Just we need to think it that way instead of a number or a ask a tough question from Amazon we have to answer. No, it's not that. It's about how to make sure your employees actually come to work safely and leave the work in the same condition. That's a whole meaning of the safety work. Right? We do people business, so it is very important to engage in an investigation. You have the information we may not have. We have the information about the workplace. You have the information about your the training, the procedures that follow and all those. We do not have those. They follow your procedure. Okay. Any other questions? All right. I guess there is no additional questions in the chat box. I was turn this back to the facilitator.
Jeff, thank you so much for everything, for all the information. I appreciate every single one of you also attending the summit. Thank you from the CRM team and also from Amazon on everything that and really your investment and everything that you do for us. So I hope that you found a lot of value in these sessions and during all the event. So hopefully we'll see you next year. Thanks, everyone.